Hello, Matt. Can you hear us?
I can indeed.
Can you include also the video?
Yes, here we go. And I'll share my screen as well. Yeah, I have a few slides here that I put together. I guess just for first to say thank you to Elena and to Artur for having me, and also letting us have this platform sort of introduce Taskable. But what I talk about here in this presentation, in a lot of ways, is sort of the tools that I've used sort of for the last several years that now we're sort of in a way productizing within Taskable. So I titled it "Staying Productive While Staying Sane." I guess is a little bit provocative, and I think that word "productive" can mean a lot of things to a lot of people. So I think it's important maybe to say what this presentation isn't, or what these sort of guidelines aren't. They aren't a way for me to say, here's how you 10 times your output. If that happens, if that's a side effect, great. But more to me, productivity and staying sane, I guess, it's more about feeling better about the work you get done, prioritizing the most important things, spending time on things that matter. Like I said, I've thought a lot about this space. I've done a ton of research now working on Taskable and just sort of taking, what works well for me and what works well, I think, generally over the last however many years and sort of putting that into a product. And so these are just, like I said, things that work for me. Mileage will vary depending on what type of work you do. So if you take a lot of meetings and things like that, some of these tools may not work great for you, or you may need to amend them. But yeah, like I said, it's sort of some things that have worked for me and some things that we're trying to productize a bit in Taskable. One thing to say is that the pandemic will sort of change a lot of things for a lot of people. Working from home, working remote fully has upended a lot of people's lives. Even though I had been working remote and sort of working from home here and there before, it still has a massive impact on how I go about things. So as I sort of go through this, because I originally wrote this presentation as a blog several months ago, I'll sort of add any sort of amendments for our current reality. So yeah, just a little bit about me. I'm the co-founder of Taskable. My experience, I also work with Data Metal, which is a data science consultancy, sort of on the side, on the operations and marketing side with them. My experience is largely in product management, growth, operations, mostly focused in startups and technology. And I am currently in London, but I am American from California, and will be moving back there in the summer, hopefully, maybe. We'll see if flights are going. But yeah, that's just a little bit about me. And like I said, my sort of experience in this specific area has been a lot about doing research and sort of building this new product called Taskable that we've been working on. And just sort of a quick pitch, Taskable brings all your work in one place so you can stay focused on what's most important. So we essentially give you a single list, a single view of all the work you need to get done. Tom, my co-founder, and I started this. We started working on the actual product itself December 23rd of 2019. But we started doing our research back in sort of November. And this comes from when him and I were working together at a startup. We left there. Tom's a full stack developer. I'm sort of generalist growth marketing person. And we both went out and got jobs working, freelancing, working with an agency in Tom's case. And what we found is, since we had so many clients spread across multiple Slacks, multiple accounts in Gmail, Asana boards, Trello boards, Jira boards, when I sat down and Tom sat down to do our work every morning, we didn't have that single view of here's all the things that we need to get done. It was all sort of fragmented and existing across these various products. What's hard about that is then when you think, okay, in the morning, I want to get my things, I want to figure out what I'm going to be doing today. I want to know how I'm going to prioritize my time. It's virtually impossible when all the work you need to get done lives across these various products. And so we thought maybe there's a way that we can solve that problem. And like I said, we started talking to a lot of people, similar people to us, so freelancers or agency people or founders maybe working on a side project, product managers, sort of anyone in this sort of cross-functional space where they might not have a single tool to have all the work they need to get done in one place. And we found that a lot of people had the same problem. It was a headache. What it did was cause chaos in their day at work. And again, this is sort of the thing that I felt that I was trying to solve for using various tools, and then that's the problem we want to solve for with Taskable. We're currently in beta. If you're interested, come join us. You can send me an email, matt@taskablehq.com, and we'll get you set up, or pre-register on the website. And yeah, we currently integrate with Slack, Asana, and Gmail, adding more integrations, adding more features as we go. So that's my pitch. Um, so yeah, again, launching into again the things that work for me and what I found sort of in my research tend to be fairly universal, although how you actually implement these will vary as you'll see. And again, I'm not sort of, I don't want to prescribe these as like a one size fits all solution. These will definitely need to sort of fit your situation, the type of work you do, your reality, where you're working from, how much time you actually can sort of devote in blocks and things like that. But yeah, just sort of as a general things that work for me, and hopefully you can implement some of them, or maybe they help you or they make you think differently about the way that you organize your work. So the first thing is capture everything. Again, going back to the problem that we're trying to solve, having things disaggregated, spread across multiple places, is stressful. It makes you have to sort of constantly think about, do I have everything? Is everything organized? Is everything in a place where I can come to it later? What you don't want to do is forget some important deadline or some important task or some important piece of information someone shared with you. So when something comes in, for me, the best thing to do is write it down somewhere, or have somewhere where I can capture it. If it comes in from Slack or Gmail, if it comes in from a Twitter direct message, if it comes in from my partner saying, "Hey, can you pick up some milk on the way home from work today?" All these things, if you haven't written them down and you sort of refer back to them at some point in your head, and knowing that they're not necessarily where they need to be, can cause stress, and especially in my case. So yeah, like I said, having this when something comes in, putting it where it needs to be. Writing it down, having that list, and knowing that even if you're not going to be able to get to it, like you don't have to do everything that comes your way, but at least having it organized and in place where you can refer back to it later is incredibly important. The second tip or tool that I use is plan your day, or for me it's day. Some people I've talked to can do it a little bit longer. So, if you're a software developer doing sort of agile, you might have 2 week long sprints. So you kind of know the things you're going to be doing over the course of 2 weeks, although things will slightly change here and there. But you might be able to plan over the course of 2 weeks. If you're like me, my days change, my priorities change on a regular basis. Like I like to try to think about what I'm going to do throughout the course of the week. But in reality, every day is different, and sort of what I can actually get done on a day-to-day basis is different. I've actually talked to some people who do, morning and afternoon. So they'll plan in the morning, they'll plan in the afternoon. And essentially what this is just putting together that list of things you need to get done. Here's the 5 or 6 things, or whatever those turn out to be. It could be 10, it could be 2, depending on sort of how big you sort of define these projects or tasks. And I think that the psychology tends to show that making a plan, having it structured and organized reduces anxiety. And when you reduce that anxiety, it just makes it easier to get things done. If you have this huge backlog and you don't have some things that you just bubble up to the top, you tend to, for me at least, get into that analysis paralysis of, okay, I have a million things to do and I can't pick from them because there's just too many of them, and that's overwhelming. And then it causes me to feel stressed or chaotic, or feel sort of get down on myself. I have too much to do. And instead of just going on to the next thing, I look at this huge backlog and I get discouraged. And maybe then I sort of navigate over to Twitter, or take a break, or just get overwhelmed in some capacity. So what I find is having the 5 or 6 things I need to do every day, just the act of doing that in the morning gives me a sense of calm. I can see it's a manageable amount, even if I don't get all the way through those 5 or 6 tasks. At least I can see that there's an end, and every once in a while I will get all the way through them. And also, of course, over the course of the day, they'll get disrupted, or I might find something new that comes in that's super important. But having them written down, having that structure, it means if I do feel overwhelmed, I can just move down to the next thing on the list and not have to sort of go through that huge backlog. So it reduces that analysis, lets me just move on to the next thing that I deemed important at some point when I was planning that day. The next thing, and for me, this is like the biggest game changer for me, and it fundamentally sort of changed how I felt about my day at the end. And it's something really simple, but it's to use a timer. I know probably a lot of people are familiar with Pomodoro. If you're not, Pomodoro is essentially you work on one task, you set a timer for 20 minutes, you focus on that one task, and when that 25 minutes is done, you take a 5-minute break. After a few cycles of that, I think it's 4, you take a longer break, a 15-minute break, I think. So I was trying that, and that was, like I said, a game changer to be able to just say, okay, I'm going to work for 25 minutes straight on a single task, and then I'm going to allow myself that time to take a break to refresh. It was super useful because I was kind of doing that anyway, but in an unstructured way. So I would try to work on a certain task, and then I would get I would get tired, my brain would get lazy, and then before I knew it, I found myself again on Twitter, Reddit, or watching a YouTube video, and I felt bad about myself doing that. But what I sort of didn't realize is that you do need to take breaks. The human brain can't sit down at a desk for 4 hours and work, and then take their lunch break and then work another 4 hours. That's just not possible. You can't, I mean, maybe for some people, it certainly wasn't possible for me. So you do need to take those breaks. And so, yeah, I started using the Pomodoro technique, and I really loved it. I used an app called Pomodone, if anyone's interested in the market. Yeah, I found that sort of having that structure around the breaks made the work I needed to get done a lot easier because I had those chunks of time, and I saw a light at the end of the tunnel. Uh, it just so happened that without even realizing it, the 25 minutes on, 5 minutes off turned out to be not enough time for me. And what I found was I was blowing through a lot of those breaks, and then sort of having that same problem where I would do 2 or 3 25-minute stretches in a row without actually taking a break, and then going back to that, getting overwhelmed or taking breaks when I didn't need to. So it just so happened, so I have a 4-year-old and a 1.5-year-old, but my wife sent me an article not too long ago about, this is about 2 years ago, I suppose, when a toddler's having a rough time, what you're supposed to do is give them a 17-minute break. And I thought, okay, that's odd, why 17 minutes? And the author mentions, that's the time the brain needs to recover from something, to sort of, that's how long it takes to refresh or reset. And then the article sort of offhandedly mentions, the longest time you can actually concentrate is for 52 minutes. And I thought, well, that's interesting. Maybe that's actually the right ratio for me to use instead of 25 and 5, try 52 and 17. So I tried it with the Pomodoro app. I can change the timers. So I did that. I set it to 52 minutes, working, 17-minute break. And in that 52 minutes, I sort of pick the thing I want to work on and try to get all the way through that. And what I found is it worked really well. So that sort of magic ratio, it's, once I'm getting towards the end of 52 minutes, I'm ready for that break. Once I've taken that 17-minute break, I'm ready to get back into work. And I just find that it's really nice to sort of refresh your brain, take that 17 minutes off. But again, 50, once you're done getting close to that hour, it's like, your brain can only handle so much. So I thought that was like ingenious that I had discovered this thing actually, and I started writing this blog, like I said, a few months ago, and I thought, I should probably research that, and maybe other people have sort of figured this out. It wasn't just something related to toddlers. As it turns out, there's a lot of people that do this, so I wasn't as innovative as I thought. But it all stems from a study that basically looked at the most productive workers and what their rhythms were, and their rhythms tended to be 52 minutes on, 17 minutes off, like I said. And for me, and the way I started this was, it's not necessarily about getting the most stuff done or being productive in that sort of traditional sense, but it's also that getting into that rhythm of work where you can feel good about it, where you can give yourself time to relax and not sort of get down on yourself for not constantly being working and productive. So that 52-minute, 17-minute thing is sort of that magic ratio, which has been studied scientifically, and it wasn't just sort of something that I stumbled upon by looking at this article on toddlers. A few things, and this is where the reality of the pandemic sets in, is that some people might be sitting there thinking, oh yeah, 52 minutes to work on one thing at a time and 17-minute break. Like, who has that luxury to be able to sort of deeply focus on something? Like, you have calls, or you're working from home, so the kids pop in, or whatever. There's plenty of things that will prevent you from actually being able to set these time frames. And I totally get that, and I've struggled actually a bit with it since being fully working from home. But the way I just manage it is that's something to strive for. If I can get 52 minutes straight of work, if I can take that break, great. If I can't, pause the timer, start it over, do what you need to do. Don't feel bad about not making it or like getting interrupted halfway through. It's going to happen. But it is something to sort of strive for. And again, also, for some people who have to be on meetings more or whatever, 25 minutes doing the Pomodoro might work really well. I think the key really is just making sure that you allow yourself time to have a break, to refresh. In that break, that might be when you get the most work done, as it turns out, because you sort of plan out, what you want to do next. You think through it, and you think, okay, I have, the exact perfect way to attack this next project or whatever it might be. Did I miss anything there? Oh yeah, just one other thing. I guess on that note of planning and planning your day and sort of getting into that rhythm, I should have mentioned on the last slide, but I also think that what's really important is making sure that you break your day down so that you have some sort of obviously there's some things you like doing more than others. Doing the bookkeeping probably not as much fun as working on a new feature, or building something on the website. So I try to always have my day sort of interspersed with start with like a really fun task or something that really gets you into the mood, really gets you sort of in that workflow, and then then do your taxes and then do another fun thing. So trying to break up your day too, so that you're sort of interspersing more enjoyable things rather than just trying to do like the really hard stuff first, especially because then you can't get into that flow. I think that's important. And yeah, the last tip really is make sure you use those breaks. So what I was finding especially was, I found that sitting at my desk all day and trying to just, when I didn't take breaks, when I didn't find time, is that I was getting really bad neck pain and shoulder pain and like hunched over and generally just not feeling healthy and physically well. So what I started doing, and this worked for me, of course, is taking that 17-minute break and using that as an opportunity to get my blood flowing. It's nice, 17 minutes is a good amount of time that you can actually, go for a pretty long walk, get a thousand steps in. So that's what I tend to use it for, is just getting. And I think the key thing to take away from that is get up from your desk, move away from where you do your work or where work happens, and go somewhere else, even if it's right next to where you are. And so another pandemic update is obviously you can't just go outside of the park right now, or you shouldn't. So what I have is a yoga ball next to my desk, and I sort of face away from my laptop, and I just bounce on my yoga ball, and that gets my blood flowing a bit. Or I'll go out in the yard and do some jump ropes, or go in the living room and play with the kids. So yeah, so modifying it for the current reality, and then also it might not be about some physical activity. It could just be going and sitting and reading a book, but something that takes your mind off the task at hand, or lets you sort of decompress and defocus, and then sort of pivot back to that later once you've had that time. Or even, I don't know, for some people, like for me, I still sometimes use that break even just to like scroll around on Twitter on my phone, sitting on the couch, because there's nothing wrong with doing a little bit of social media every now and then. But yeah, just the idea of what I really liked about this was that it sort of helped me. It helped me improve my mood, especially that getting that exercise when I wasn't getting enough exercise before. I felt better about my day. I felt better about the fact that I wasn't just sat at my desk for 8 hours and hunched over and feeling just generally not very well. So yeah, that's basically it. Just to sum up, and again, I just want to reiterate that I understand that I'm very lucky that I can that this is something that works really well for me, and I found sort of that magic recipe. But this isn't for everybody. I hope that maybe there's some things in here that help you maybe think about ways that you might approach productivity, and again, productivity in the sense of feeling like you spent your day doing the most important things, or that you did things that moved the needle the most, or made you feel the best about the work you needed to do. So yeah, there's no one size fits all solution, I don't think. But yeah, so to run through that list again, make sure everything you need to do is captured in some place. So that organization, that structure gives you that sense of relief and knowing that it's not going to slip through the cracks. Pick the top priorities, have them all on the list. That way you can just sort of run through them, tick them off, and get in that flow without having to constantly be thinking about what should I do next. And sort of interspersing, I think, the fun things there throughout the day. So you're not just, you don't have an entire day of doing accounting or something. As you can see, I don't like accounting. 52-17 ratio, but most importantly, that timer, making sure that you allot time for breaks, because you should, in my view, you should always feel like you can take those and feel good about taking them, because it actually makes you more productive by whatever measure that you want to use. And yeah, take the breaks. Make sure you take that time. Change your environment. Don't think that you can sit at your desk for 8 hours a day, or I mean, maybe you're superhuman, but most people can't sit at the desk for 8 hours a day and be extremely productive. I guess the last thing I would say is that, I don't know if anyone else has lived through a global pandemic before, probably not very many of you, but I think also thinking about changing what we view as productive in this environment. There's a lot of existential crisis or things that we haven't dealt with before, new realities, working from home, etc. I just want to sort of encourage everyone. I saw a tweet that said basically, you're not productive by the standards of previously you're productive by the standards of today. So don't get too hard on yourself. I think it's fine to just take a day and relax and breathe if you can, because it's uncharted territory that we're in. So that's it for me. Thank you everyone for having me. Thanks Artur, and really appreciate being able to present to everyone.